Okay, so let's get started with the session for today. So it's gonna be the last session for the course, and we're gonna be kind of recapping all the important aspects just to kind of brush up and ensure that all the modules that we have covered up is kind of we revisit them and and get an understanding once again. So if you have any further queries, probably we can get them answered as well, right? So with modules recap, we're gonna first see. So this is the enterprise RPA governance roles and responsibilities involved. So we know that once we have our RPA framework built up, right? So from the top management till the various responsibilities that are there in RPA, so it starts with the sponsorer of RPA to the head of RPA. And then we have seen that we have a lot of roles that are involved, starting from infrastructure engineer to lead solution architect to project manager to developer to supervisor to business analysts. And based on experience and ranking, decides whether it's a lead position or a normal position. So we have gone through the entire course, which kind of fits us here. So probably either as a lead business analyst or a business analyst role, right? So and the other roles are also very much predominant in the entire RPA framework. Then we saw about the RPA deliverables and ownership. So generally in the entire RPA lifecycle, we have like 6 phases. So we saw that the first phase is to prepare, where we kind of try to get the requirements from the client. We understand the process. We are in a phase of creating the process definition document, which is PDD, right? So business analyst gets involved in preparation of RPA as well, where we lean review and baseline the process. Then it comes to the solution design, where PDD creation and sign off happens, right? The business analyst gets involved in the PDD creation and as well as creating the test scripts about the test data. So now we are very much aware of what is UAT, how does the test scripts happens, what are the test documentation that's going to take place and things like that. On the build RPA solution, it's the development phase, but we still have a business analyst role involved. If in case there is any updation to the PDD that happens, it has to be done by the business analyst. Now to test the RPA solution, we have seen that the business analyst would be involved in testing, performing the UAT, recording the test results, maintaining the traceability metrics, maintaining the test cases with respect to any debug or failure that needs to be recorded and reported back as a bug to the developer. And then to stabilize RPA, we see there are two roles that are involved. One is create case studies and another is handover documentation. So create case studies we've already seen. So any specific, so entire documentation, various test cases that we prepare needs to be kind of, confirmed by the business analyst. Whatever manual or documentation that needs to be moved to production, how to use the bot and what are the usabilities and features needs to be created by the business analyst. And then also the continuous improvement, which is the last phase, which doesn't which is it's a continuous, it's a never ending process along with the support team. So they perform the performance assessment as well, where business analyst gets involved. So that's where we see business analyst roles getting fitted in the entire RPA solutioning, I mean RPA deliverables and ownership journey. Then we spoke about the roles and the responsibilities analysis of business analyst in RPA. So we know that the business or the process owner works in alignment with the business analyst and the technical team. So a bridge between the stakeholders requesting a solution and the ones delivering the solution is nothing but the business analyst. So the business analyst understands the business problems and the requirements, translates the business problem into technology problem and provides a high level solution. We then design the solution and confirm the solution from the client. And once we get an approval of the client solution, we validate that solution, that it goes for the development and the solution does what it needs to intend to do on completing the entire automation project. So this is the hierarchy or the chain that we follow, and we see with respect to the roles that the business analyst is involved with, right? Then we have learned about what is opportunity assessment, what is the very, very important topic or aspect of a business analyst role, right? The process of evaluating an idea or a concept or an opportunity to determine whether there is sufficient strategic, market or financial merit from the continued consideration for possible development of a product. So in opportunity assessment, we have seen a lot of stuff. So when we have multiple opportunities to be evaluated as a part of whether it can be taken as an automation potential project or not, right? So we have seen a lot of other aspects in alignment with the opportunity assessment. So evaluation of the ideas, taking up the right projects, evaluating the right processes, identifying what is not potential, what is potential is very, very important. Then we saw the RPA implementation strategy, where we have the high frequent process environment change. So we have 4 quadrants to it. We saw, which is something called as any project that does not fit to be performed under any sort of automation falls under no robotic automation. Certain projects are partially automation potential. Let's say 70% is automated, 30% is not potential. So we say these are semi-automated potential, which falls in the left hand side. Then comes high cost automation, zero touch automation. So yes, certain projects are automated completely end to end, 100%, and can be triggered as an unattended bot from a server level, where you do not require any human intervention to kind of complete the task or the process. So those are the ones we call as zero automation or zero touch automation. And the final one is high cost automation, where we have automation projects which requires high end technologies like AI, ML, machine learning, deep learning, or kind of design thinking concepts, where the costing or the implementation of the project is higher to accomplish the automation. So those falls under the high cost automation quadrant, right? And then we saw about the complexity analysis and factors. What are the various complexities, and what are the various sort of analysis that we do, right? So complexity analysis continues to be performed by how many number of screens that the process is having, or everything gets defined in the PDD. What are the variations in the scenarios within the process? That means how many conditional statements are there. For that, we say how many if or else's are required. So if this is the scenario, what the bot needs to do. So that's called as the variation or the scenarios within the process. So how many different scenarios are there, how many different variations are there, which is also a kind of decider for your complexity. Then input, standard inputs, very, very important aspect, right? Templated inputs, same format or type of inputs across the cases. Standardization of input is very, very important for a robot to take place, right? And it decides or takes a major part in identifying what sort of project complexity it could be. Then another important aspect, if it's an image based automation, where we do require any VDI or remote or a Citrix kind of an automation concept, right? And then free text, flow of information, free text, unstructured within the process. So if the information that is going to flow through one part of the bot to the another, right, are these free text. So do we have a flow of information as a free text? So which could be an unstructured informational flow, right, but in the form of text. Then comes structured input, where we have spoken about the machine readable inputs, which are kind of digital. For example, images, PDFs, emails, etc. are considered to be as the structured input. Then input could be from various types of application, which is kind of your Java, mainframe, SAP, web application, your .NET, your Microsoft Office, anything, any sort of a third party application also triggers to kind of analyze what sort of complexity, the project could eventually be. And then we saw the definition of the automation complexities. There are 3 projects which we have: high complexity, medium complexity, and low complexity. So what is a high complexity? A project that requires certain amount of programming skills in .NET in terms of string functions, working with the data tables, exception handling. A lot of collections are there. For example, if we are dealing with certain SAP applications or complex applications that are running in the Citrix environment, and the development time frame is generally 4 to 6 weeks. What is a medium complexity project? Similarly, when the transfer of data involves between multiple application, but does not involve a lot of programming, right? And development time frame for medium complexity is 3 to 4 weeks. And the low complexity project is very generic, where one can easily create using any recording options or small customization, right? Could be related to your desktop or web application, and development time frame requires is 1 to 2 weeks.
Paul,
Yep.
question. Now, with the programming languages, which one do you
Mhm.
use for UiPath?
So for programming language, UiPath is completely built upon the .NET functionality, right? The
Mhm.
C sharp concept. So anybody who is aware of .NET framework, or let's say C sharp language, is it will be much more easier for developing some high-end complex bots.
Mhm.
But as we have already seen, we do not need much of the programming languages. And as I've told you, right, that UiPath has come up with something called a Studio X,
Yeah.
where for non-technical people, a lot of template based work environment or frameworks are now available, where you have to just do non-technical customization, and you are ready to create a bot. So that's the thing. So for high-end complexity, yeah, if the developer includes any sort of programming language rather than UiPath, because certain task needs to be accomplished, so that's completely solution specific. And I would say so doesn't depend much on any specific programming language. And UiPath supports Python, UiPath supports PowerShell, UiPath supports VB, UiPath supports Java. So nothing specifically you have to, but yeah, the entire platform is built on .NET.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Right now, perfect. So moving on, yeah. So then we understood what is an FTE. Very, very important in terms of a business analyst role. We have to perform an FTE calculation, which is nothing but full-time execution of an employee. It refers to the number of hours worked by a single employee in a week. And we have also seen. So I've already uploaded an Excel file, which is already kind of a ready-made file, where in the Dropbox folder you can see that. So you can always use those folders where that file. We have to, if your company changes the parameters, you have to change the values and then calculate it. So we see that how do we calculate FT. So the task into number of hours that you invest per week, that time gets divided. So task time into task amount, we get the total hours. Then work weeks are considered to be as 38 per month, 38 as per the standard. But yeah, if it is deviating, you can change it. Time taken for amount shrinkage, yeah, any sort of employee unavailability or non-availability of resources, 1.28 is the standard value. But yes, you have to check with your project manager, or somebody from the management, to check what sort of account shrinkage is applicable. So based on that, you can perform the calculation. So total hours, so let's say I'm doing 5 tasks which takes 1 hour per week, so 5 hours is my total investment, divided by 38 hours per week, which is 0.13, in and multiplied by 1.28, so which is like 0.16 FTE is the savings for a single project. So similarly, if you have, so that could be 0.16 could be based on one employee resource. But if you have multiple employees in a single project, that is obviously you get the calculation of your total FT benefit. Then we have seen about the technical feasibility checklist. Very, very important. Everything that you need to do on a technical assessment of an RPA project, this is the 15 check boxes you have to go with. So we have seen each of these, whether your bots are scalable, reusable, tool based automation. So certain answers you have to understand from the business perspective, certain answers you have to get from the business, right? So 15 are the standard, but yes, you can always omit something, you can always add on to something based on the requirements of your organization. But this is just the industry standard technical assessment checklist that goes in. So any parameters or process might vary from project to project, right? Then we kind of understood about the entire UiPath platform. So we learned about what is in
One
UiPath Studio. Yep,
second.
sorry, go ahead.
Can you move back to the,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So number 4.
Mm-hmm.
So a bot can be reused, right, for another process, or it has to be just one bot?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So bot reusability is nothing but, so let's say we have created a specific bot for a specific process. Let's say it's for a specific client. Now
Mhm.
a similar client, now a similar process is also applicable to client B. Okay, and whenever you are approaching for a solution, so your organization or your team would say, hey, we already have a bot in place, but that's developed in alignment with the process of client A. So what they do, they will go and take the similar process requirements from client B and try to map how much percentage of the processes are similar. So we'll take the previous PDD documentation or usability of the bot and check whether the same bot can be used or there needs certain modification. So that's what is a bot reusability. One more thing is, so when you create a bot, there will be a lot of components to the bot. For example, let's say fetching the data from an email. So let's say the bot is having an input where you have to download the attachments from all the emails that are coming to the mailbox. Now another future project has only this similar component, which is matching. That means another project where you have to go and download the input from a mailbox where all the attachment needs to be downloaded. Let's say that's for a different client, but this specific component is already developed by your company for client A. So what your company is going to do is, your company is not going to redevelop that part. Your company is going, your manager or your team going to say, hey, this part is it's already developed, so we'll just plug and play and make configurational changes so that we save the development time. So
So
that's what is about reuse.
when you mean your company, you mean the company that is implementing the project for the client, right?
Oh yes, right. I mean, yes, the client, the company you are working for, might be it's an internal project, or if it's a consulting project, you are working for a third party or an external client. Yes, so it depends, how is your work structure. Yeah.
But the actual bot itself, you cannot be reused for another client because I believe it's owned by one client, right? Am I getting
No, I mean,
it right? Or
you cannot. No, no, no. Yeah, obviously there could be some restriction. Yes, you should not be kind of how do I put this? Okay, so you would not be showing the entire execution or the business data to your client B because it's developed for client A.
Acha.
But obviously, if you have certain automation components which are already created, you can definitely go ahead and reuse them. You go and replace the data from your client A with your client B. I mean, there is no harm in it, unless and until you are exposing any data of your client A to your client B, it's perfectly fine, because that's the concept of reusability. The
Okay.
concept of reusability is for time saving. So if you are running a company and you are, let's say, for your company you are creating bots for 5 clients. Now for a client one, you have already created an automation where email attachment download activity or component is already there. So why you want to go and invest another 2 3 2 days of developers work to kind of develop the same component for another client? So rather doing that, what you're going to do, you're going to take the code from your repository and push it to the developer and say, okay, you can make the configuration changes based on the client B's requirement and test if the activity, if the components are working. Or so that means rather than 2 days of development, you might end up saving 2 days of development work to 2 hours of work. So that's how it is.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, with respect to UiPath Studio, yeah, we have seen that it's an advanced platform where the design of the automation process takes place. UiPath Robot is actually the process execution responsible. So whatever code that is developed, your system has to run the service called as UiPath Robot, which is actually capable of performing all the tasks. So robots are two types in UiPath generally. Either it's an unattended, which is scheduled on a server level and does not require any human intervention, and other one could be an attended bot which needs a human trigger to get executed. Orchestrator is a web application of UiPath platform which enables you to deploy, schedule, monitor, and manage your bots, your robot processes, your exceptions, and everything as a centralized package over the web. Okay. Then we heard about the process lifecycle analysis. So we know that we have the requirements gathering followed by a high level process map and documentation, which follows by a review. Then we go for more scenarios and business rules analysis, which is further reviewed and approved. And then once we have it ready, we have the to be process map and the solution description. And finally, we create the PDD and get the sign off. Once the PDD is done, the development work is complete. The bot goes for an UAT lifecycle where the business analyst role is very, very important. So we make a testing strategy. We make the approaches and objectives and the standards for this testing. Then we design the testing with the test data, the test planning, the scenarios. We execute the testing. That means we perform the testing. We report the successful test cases. We report as the failed test cases as well. We coordinate the UAT and we perform the reporting. Any bug that has come up falls under defect management. So we track the bug, we report it to the developer, we get it fixed, and we retest the bot. And once all the testing activities are closed, we get an UAT sign off from the client and we prepare for move to production. Then once the bot has gone to production, yeah, we have seen some additional concepts which gets involved with respect to the RPA management, where we have seen change management takes a very, very important role, which has 6 phases usually. So where we record a change that would originate from any of the team, we review the change. Okay, so we understand whether the changes are, important and it can be performed or not. We assess and evaluate the change, to an appropriate level. We identify whether the changes are classified and it's appropriate. We get a justification for the change. We get a business benefit. We analyze it in terms of risk, cost, and impact, right? Then once the changes are approved, it gets implemented, and then we also review that the implemented changes execution is perfectly fine, or what are the learnings or drawbacks to that. So these are the 6 phases that we learned. And then finally we learned about the kind of traceability matrix, yeah, which is kind of a documentation that helps us to maintain the baseline end to end with respect to our test cases. Then we also learned about the requirements traceability matrix, which is RTM, where a software development team, performs a traceability with respect to the documentation that they follow, where everything gets documented with respect to your dates, with respect to your phases, what is your potential date of completion of your PDD, your UAT, your development time frame, your requirement sign off, your testing. Everything comes under traceability metrics, right? Perfect. So with this, yep. So these were the topics, I thought, we should be kind of revising from the entire module, right? So let's go for some Q&A if you have any questions.
Fox, ask the questions. Me, I'm good from my end.
Oh yeah, perfect.
The rest of the team might have questions.
Oh yes. So with respect to assignments, yep. So I think I've uploaded all the documentations and the slides. So please kind of start working on the assignments and ensure. So let me check the calendar quickly. Okay, so today is okay. So ensure you finish your all assignments by this Sunday, or I'll give a day extension till Monday.
No,
Post that.
let's
Uh,
by Sunday.
let's stick it to Sunday. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, let's try to complete all the 11. Oh, sorry, the 10 assignments for the entire course by Sunday, which is November 3rd. Right. Post that. One for the assignment that is remaining. The scope for that specific assignment would go as kind of null, right? So yeah. So ensure you finish all the assignments and upload it in the Dropbox by November 3rd, right? Yeah. Yep. So you go ahead with any of the questions if anyone have it.
Okay. Now, as far as the mock interviews are concerned, I expect you guys to be ready for the mock interview by the 17th. I'm gonna give you 2 weeks from now to be prepared. The mock interview basically covers everything that we've trained you on. Okay, it's gonna be oral, so I'll be asking you questions. We're gonna have a session on Zoom, and I'll be asking you questions, and then I'll expect to get a response. Okay, it's gonna be video conferencing. I mean, a video session. All right. So you guys have 2 weeks to do that mock interview. If you can't do it in 2 weeks' time, then there's no point of doing it again, because you need to be ready by that time. 2 weeks is more than enough for this. Okay. Then after that, if you do well, then you move on to the next phase of the training. Any questions as far as the mock interviews are concerned?